The fans were going crazy. When we pulled the car out of the garage, they're chanting USA, USA. Like it was just a mega feeling. And then to perform the way we did ahead of all the GT cars. I mean, our guys won the pit stop competition with a floor jack.
John Doonan, who has been a part of the Freak Nation a number of those years, joins us now here with the Freaks. Now he's president of IMSA. And of course, if you're not familiar with IMSA, I don't need to go into a diatribe, but they sanctioned the Rolex 24 and among another of other races. And I want to specifically get into that, John Doonan. How much do you have to put the brakes on yourself to not get too excited and over your heels talking about, feeling about, promoting the 24 to realize you got a whole freaking season to pay attention to?
Well, first of all, thrilled to see you all again. Obviously, long relationship with each of you. So great to see you all. Great to be on the show. Congrats for your double decades of success and keep it going because, well, the crowd loves it too.
Yeah.
But, our sport is in a really special place right now. I think motorsport in general, but definitely endurance sports car racing. We're in an incredible place. The fan attendance, the number of manufacturers, now 18 competing with us in IMSA, the global nature of our collaboration at the top category and now in GT with our partners at the ACO and the FIA. The fact that we have stable partners, but you're right. You kick off the season essentially with your Super Bowl in a lot of ways with the Rolex 24, and our staff takes time at the holidays to pump the brakes. You're right, but as soon as we got back in the office right after the holidays, it's full court press. Everybody's there. There's boxes everywhere, but it's a sign of a new season. New exciting opportunities to grow. So we're excited in Daytona Beach, and hope you all are going to be able to either join us or tune in.
You can't avoid it being in our business. John Doonan, president of IMSA, joining us here in the SpeedFreaks pits. And John, you talk about the Rolex 24 being, again, the Super Bowl of a series. In this series, it makes sense to me. Daytona, I'm still conflicted. And again, I'm decades old. And
talking about NASCAR?
Yeah, talk about NASCAR. Yeah, Daytona NASCAR and the Daytona 500. It's still one of the strangest things ever. It's like putting the Cowboys and the Patriots, the first game. Okay, this is the championship with the Cowboys and the Patriots. And then we're going to have an offseason. No, I understand it's different. But it makes more sense to have the Daytona 24 to kick off a sports car season.
It does. And when Bill France thought up the idea of an international sports car race at Daytona, his vision was best drivers, best manufacturers, best race teams in the world. And that's what we have now. Drivers can't wait to get to Daytona. It's a unique track with the banking and then using the infield. The teams, there's people that young men and women in these race teams that walk into the garage area for the first time, and you see the stadium, 101,000 seats there, and they're blown away about how big it is. And then, of course, the manufacturers all want to put a Rolex 24 trophy on their shelf. And as you know, every one of the drivers wants to put a Rolex Daytona watch on their wrist come Sunday afternoon.
All right, John, let's get into it. You brought up manufacturers. You have 18 different manufacturers in IMSA this year, 2024. So it makes me wonder, the offseason has been littered with good news for a lot of series and some not so good news for other series. How has it been that IMSA found a way to make the hybrid a reality, whereas IndyCar is still struggling and have yet to put it on the track in their series?
Well, when I got to IMSA, my eyes were open. You're a participant all these years, and I was on the OEM side. Obviously, we worked together in my Mazda days, all of you. You come in with a new set of eyes. When I was at Mazda as an OEM, I showed up to the races. Everything was organized, planned, and we put a race car on the trailer and went there to compete. We got there, we competed, we went home. I've got a huge realization now of what it takes to put these events on. And when I got to IMSA, we had a discussion as a staff and with Mr. France of what we wanted to be. And there's really three things. The growth that we've seen, I think, is because we've remained cost effective. All three of us and your audience knows racing's expensive, but you got to keep it cost contained. The second is we want to be entertainment, and there's no doubt with the number of cars and the close competition, that's what we are. Finally, to your point, Crash, is automotive industry marketing tool. And, as you watch the auto industry, and there's news stories this week about certain brands not going to certain auto shows, which as a kid, we all went and collected all the brochures and dreamed of owning one of those cars at the auto show. The auto shows have changed, and I honestly think we've become an auto show. The manufacturers, they're doing it on track, no doubt, but they're using these events to launch new cars, entertain dealers, entertain owner groups, car corrals, and then tying what they're doing to the race at the racetrack to the road car, whether that's the actual design, the propulsion, or the hybrid versus the actual engine or powertrain. So we've become that, and I can't tell you how excited and honored I am, because I always thought that way as a kid. Like, what happens at the racetrack should apply to the road car and vice versa.
Do you think that it's just become so much more attractive in IMSA to be that kind of marketing tool versus some other series out there? I know Formula E is really, pushing, obviously, electronic racing, but at the same time, their form of open wheel racing, it seems to make sense there as well, but maybe not so much stock car or even drag racing or IndyCar. It just, you guys make sense. Like you just said, the car show's changing, but are they changing in a way that IMSA is adapting the fastest?
Well, we're fortunate, so fortunate, to have a group of automakers that are open with us about what is relevant, whether that is hybrid, like we launched in GTP, or sustainable fuels, which we launched in GTP last year. The idea that they can tell a brand story by the styling cues on the race car. So what I mean in my answer is we're collaborating with the automakers about what drives them. And all the things I mentioned, whether it's what makes the car go, how the car looks, the performance of the vehicle, we want to be relevant to what they need to tell their story. And so when we develop a set of rules, we're doing that with their feedback in mind. And I think that's one of the factors why they're there. Obviously, there's entertainment value, there's marketing value in our partnership with NBC. WeatherTech, Michelin, VP Racing Fuels, they've all decided that this is a place to tell their brand story too. And so we're in a great place. I'm excited, but we're just going to keep taking really good care of it.
John Doonan, president of IMSA. I want to kick back a little bit on the praise of the Rolex 24. Your first two events of the year at Daytona and at Sebring are half your season. If you look at laps completed or hours completed, and a lot of competitors have balked at that and have gone to other series where it's not as expensive. You're heavy in manufacturers. You got 18 manufacturers could spend a lot of money, but they could also decide at tables where you may not be present to blue pencil, and IMSA goes away in their budgets. Is that a problem on any level of what I just asked? The 24, 36 hours in your first two events, and manufacturers that spend a lot of money that support you, but any one of them could give you a headache when you're not at the table to decide what they're deciding.
Yeah, I mean, similar to what I was saying in Crash's question about the OEMs and their decision to come race with us. The second is, where do you want to race? And how can we broadcast that to an audience that's on site or an audience on our NBC platforms? They've given us feedback that the tradition of the Rolex 24 kicking off the season, and then roughly 6 weeks later, the Mobile One 12 hours of Sebring being next. And then, hey, bookend it with Motul Petit Le Mans at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. So the cadence of the season has a lot of date and venue equity. Their participation is being driven by their feedback to us. And I think they're speaking with not only running on track, but with their consumer displays on the midway.
John Doonan, president of IMSA, still with us here in the Freak Nation. So many things to talk about, so little time. I want to get to the Garage 56 project and how it was a goal for Big Bill France back in the day. It fascinates me. Frankly, the success, what transpired in Le Mans last year. And when you read the story about really how this came about, go back and think about the old run runners and whiskey runners of NASCAR back in the day. But Big Bill France, in a lot of ways, was a forward thinker. And I think it was 1976 where they entered in Le Mans with a couple of cup cars at the time. But it was a goal of the France family to have a full-fledged American metal race car in Le Mans to be competitive, go out there and kick the ass of those Europeans. And frankly, what you guys did last year, you did that and more. Was this an initial project of why you were hired to be a part of this Garage 56? How much did IMSA play a part in this? How much did you play a part in this, John Doonan?
Well, I don't necessarily think it was why I was hired, but I remember the day. I'll never forget the day, and it makes my arms hair stand up. But Jim France walked in my office and sat on my couch in the office and said, "Hey, John, we're gonna take a NASCAR next gen Cup car to Le Mans. I'd like you to lead it. You don't necessarily get a chance to be part of history."
Hold on, just a second. Just saying that,
Right.
We're going to take a NASCAR Cup car to Le Mans. That's like saying we're going to take a bucket of fried chicken to a 3-star Michelin restaurant. And we're going to kick the ass of those hors d'oeuvres that cost $500 an ounce. It sounds fun, but you understand my point?
Oh yeah, that's a great analogy.
It's a great.
But you mentioned Bill France Sr. and he had a vision. NASCAR was booming in the South in those days in the early to mid 70s, but he felt it needed more, and he thought we ought to go tell an international stage what NASCAR is all about. Jim wanted to recreate that, and he had the vision to do it with NASCAR's winningest manufacturer, Chevrolet, NASCAR's winningest team, Hendrick Motorsports, and NASCAR's tire partner since 1954. In Goodyear, of course. And so magical opportunity to work with a bunch of all-stars in the industry. You think of the people at Hendrick and what Chad Knaus, Greg Ives, Jimmy Johnson, Rick himself have accomplished with I think 14 Cup titles. You don't do that by accident. The folks at Chevrolet have been to Le Mans many times with Corvette Racing, won hundreds and hundreds of NASCAR races. It just was it was like a fraternity and a sorority came together. The special bond that was created between the people, and then just going there, I knew people, or I hoped people would like it, the sound, the thunder, the Americana of it, but they loved it. The fans were going crazy. When we pulled the car out of the garage, they're chanting USA, USA.
Oh.
Like it was just a mega feeling. And then to perform the way we did ahead of all the GT cars. I mean, our guys won the pit stop competition with a floor jack, a traditional NASCAR pit stop. So it was incredible. And it's living on, and Prime announced there's going to be a documentary. So everybody needs to watch for that in the early part of this year.
We've got so many great headlines with IMSA, whether it's the audience increase, the campground being sold out, 18 manufacturers. venue equity. You brought up that exact term earlier in this interview. And you're right. We're talking about Le Mans right now. Granted, that's not an IMSA sanctioned event, but IMSA teams go over there. But yeah, Daytona, Indianapolis, the Glen, Laguna Seca. So what is the goal? I mean, you seem like you've reached the peak or close to the peak. What is a goal for 2024? Is it just continuing to sustain this growth, or is there something bigger?
Great question. First of all, GTP, the new hybrid powered prototypes with an 80% renewable fuel and 4 manufacturers committed. That was a big story in 23, and it delivered. Lamborghini is joining us in a prototype in 24. We're hoping to see them kick off their program at Sebring. So big prototype news again in 24. 24 represents a GT battle like none other. There's more GT manufacturers racing in IMSA than in any other sanctioning body in the world. That'll be 11 manufacturers. The Ford Mustang is back in IMSA GT racing, a new Corvette, a new Aston Martin, cars from Ferrari, Lexus, Porsche, you name it, BMW, across the board. And I think that is a special story for this season. But overall, we got to refine everything we're doing, continue to push. There's no letting up off the accelerator when it comes to promoting the events, engaging with fans, and ultimately putting on the best possible show we can. And that comes in the form of balance of performance. So you get all these manufacturers together, a wide range of cars. You got to put on a good show. And so our technical team is working on how we balance all those cars to make sure everybody has a fighting chance.
Those are dirty words in IMSA, though. Those are dirty words.
BOP.
John Doonan, president of IMSA, joining us here in the Freak Nation. The 27th to 28th this month, the Rolex 24 gets kicking off. The eclectic field. This is like a Bonnaroo or just a crazy rock and roll, easy listening, electronica, thumping type show, but
Trolls
with
World Tour.
Trolls World Tour. Bam, at a girl crasher.
K-pop.
With the number of drivers, male, female, and countries and series that are coming over here to run this series, is the actual race the attraction? Or, frankly, the name of this race and trying to win the name of this race, the attraction?
Well, you're stinking going to strike a chord with me because I watched that race starting when I was 9 years old, up in a cold living room in Chicago in the snow, praying that I'd have the chance to be there someday. And, now in a variety of roles, I've done it, 15 times. But the first horseshoe in the infield is called the International Horseshoe. And the reason it is because there's flags that fly. So when you watch the broadcast, please watch for that. And those flags represent the home country of every driver that's participating. And, whether you're wearing a certain brand or you're from a different country with a certain passport, when everyone comes there, they're doing one thing and speaking the same language, and that's passion for endurance. And you're right. It's a absolute gathering of the best. We got former Formula One world champion Jenson Button. We got Felipe Massa. You got IndyCar champions Scott Dixon, Joseph Newgarden, Alex Palou. You got Sebastian Bourdais. You guys got people that have won every form of the sport. You've got the sports car icons, multi-time champions from around the world, both at Le Mans and in IMSA. On Friday, you got Bubba Wallace and John Hunter Nemechek running a Toyota Supra in the Michelin Pilot Challenge race, the 4 hours. So it's really hard to describe the feeling to know that you're in the midst of the best. And the teams like Penske, Ganassi, Action Express, Ray Hall, Andretti with Wayne Taylor, Jimmy Vasser and Sully with Vasser Sullivan. You got the best of the best, and it doesn't get much better.
It's so refreshing to hear you say that, because sometimes we are so handicapped to what other media are pushing out towards us. And in the mid 2000s, it was there's not enough Americans in IndyCar, or there's not enough Americans in this, series. No, you don't. You shouldn't care about the nationality of somebody. You want to see the best up against the best. That's something that has defined Formula One, IndyCar, sports cars, even drag racing to a point. So, yes, it's refreshing to hear you say that we should embrace the different nationalities, the diversities of all kinds, not just because it's socially correct or politically correct, but because it's the best of the best.
Yeah, very well said. And that's how I feel when I come through the tunnel that morning. That's how I feel as I stay up all night with my staff, facilitating the race and engaging with our partners throughout. You know that you're in the midst of the best when you're there. And, come Sunday afternoon when everybody's pushing in the final couple hours, those who end up in victory lane have earned it.
Hold on. Do you stay up the entire 24 hours?
I do. It's actually a little bit of a joke in the office. I don't drink coffee. Chocolate milk is actually my biggest vice.
Whoa.
And yeah, so when I get up on Saturday morning, and I did this at Mazda, I walked through the garage area by myself. It's a little bit of a calm before the storm. I kind of have a tradition, and then green flag drops. It's time to go to battle with the clock, really. And I've always felt like I couldn't go to sleep. My staff's out there executing. Race control doesn't go to sleep. The teams don't go to sleep, so I might as well stay up. So, yeah, by the time Sunday rolls around, you're up for like 46 hours, and you're out ready to hit a wall.
Wow. Wow. So that brings to mind, in hour 42, do people come to you with problems that you say, why are you bringing this to me?
Oh, yeah.
In other people out there.
Hour 24.
Are you stamping out fires in every one of those 40 hours?
Well, when I came to IMSA, I was blessed with an incredible staff. I like to say the best in the business, motorsports professionals that on the marketing side or the competition side or, member services, whatever it is, logistics, these people have dedicated their lives to this lifestyle. And it does take endurance to get through a season and definitely this event. But yeah, stuff pops up all the time. We've got regulations, penalties, things that could be executed.
All right, John, I'm cutting you off here. I want one story of one example. You don't have to mention manufacturers or names unless you want to.
You could,
but
yes.
Tell me the one thing that came to you and you had to sit back and say, that's never happened before.
Well, you can't hide from it. This race last year, 5 days after the results were final, we were notified of infraction. Tire pressure monitoring system that had data manipulated that was coming to us that looked really good to us, but in the end, it was out of compliance. And so we had to issue penalties to the overall winner last year. And we learned a lot from that. We've changed that whole system such that the data comes directly to us as opposed to stopping at the race team's timing stand. But yeah, stuff comes up, and that one in particular, I lost a lot of sleep over that one because it's our intent to have a level playing field at all times. And if somebody steps out of bounds, and racers will be racers, I'm one of them, and you all are too. But fair competition is the only way to go, and we had to address it.
I know one time this was a half an hour before the race started, maybe 45 minutes. We're walking in the pit lane with a scrutineer, somebody who, checks the cars out, a tech inspector. And he walks past one of the team cars and says, those tires are illegal. I mean, this is out of the clear blue. We weren't talking about that. He looks at him and says, those tires are illegal. And the guy says, what are you talking about? He says, those are, and he rips off, it should be 1, 2, 3, 4, and you got 5, 6, 7, 8 on your tires. And they looked at each other with thousands of people in the pit lane. they're screaming around trying to change the tires minutes before the race started. And I look at him, he's a friend of the Freaks. I look at him and said, "What'd you do that for?" He said, "The car's illegal. What am I supposed to do?"
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
happens before the race, during the race, and after the race.
Yeah, I mean, compliance is a big thing. And I know at the core, whether it's NASCAR, anything the France family does, IMSA, of course, fair competition, parity. That's what it's all about, because we got hundreds of thousands of fans that'll join us throughout the season. And they came to see, to Gladys's point, the best of the best. And we want to put on a great show for them, and it needs to be a fair fight. And when they leave, they need to know who the winner was, and they know that they need to know that they did it with integrity and pushing hard, but with integrity inside the rules.
Has there been discussions, John Doonan, president of IMSA, joining us here in the Freak Nation, has there been serious discussions about teaming up IndyCar with IMSA, with NASCAR for a weekend?
Well, the good news is at the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach or at the Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix, we are running on those same weekends, the IMSA product, as well as the IndyCar series. NASCAR and IndyCar have shared some weekends at the Brickyard. I think internally in Daytona Beach, we're constantly looking at ways that we can better our weekends in terms of a fan experience and things like that. So can't talk necessarily about what's in the pipeline, but rest assured that with the tracks that the company owns, Daytona, Watkins Glen, Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, Sebring, among others, there's opportunities to do that. And I think you mentioned Garage 56. That was a absolute collaboration between NASCAR and IMSA, and it's happening more and more. So I guess wait to see what comes up.
No, wait a minute. Come on, John. You can't drop that on the table. I'll bring in the tech inspector to say, "Hey, that's illegal." You can't.
Hey, you're right. The Daytona 500 plus 24 sounds great.
Maybe that'll happen, but
that's a logistical nightmare. No.
NASCAR Cup car went to Le Mans. You never know what could happen.
Yeah, just on the last lap, instead of cruising around and doing burnouts, just dive into turn one and keep going.
You laugh, Doonan.
Hey, it could happen. We proved the NASCAR Cup car is capable. We prove in a couple weeks what all these brands are capable of. And the thing is, the Rolex 24 has become a sprint race. Like they are pushing nonstop at night. If you've all been there, like the restarts at night are bonkers. These guys and gals are pushing so hard throughout the entire race. So,
but John, who orders the rain every year?
Hey,
the rain comes. Who
I want to go on
that
record.
you to get a nap in there?
No. I want to go on record. Ironically, since I started in this role at IMSA in 2020, and I'm about to jinx the whole thing.
Yep,
it has not rained during the Rolex 24 in 5 years. So I just put that out there.
All right, get your umbrellas, people.
Exactly. Get your raincoat.
The art.
Get your galoshes. Exactly. It's going to pour buckets, I'm sure.
Hey, if my math serves me correctly, freaking Ganassi has enough Rolexes to outfit the freaking Brady Bunch. How do we stop that guy from winning freaking the Rolex 24?
Yeah, what Chip has accomplished with his staff, and think of the drivers that he's had in that victory lane. Huge for that company to do what they've done now with Cadillac. Action Express is another one. Those guys have been in victory lane there so many times. Penske, of course, was in there with Mark Donohue back in the Lola T70, but not since. So I think Roger, Tim Cindric, and their crew want to put Porsche back in there. Acura has been strong the last couple of years with Wayne Taylor's program, now with Andretti, with Mike Shank, and Bobby Rahal has been in there in GT. He's been in there as an overall winner. So you don't know what he's going to be able to do with BMW here in this season as well.
Man, those names are just, they're a whole hell of a lot of fun. And I can't say too much, but man, the geriatrics, listen, the names are incredible and they continue to be a success and compete. It's not, it may sound like your dad's freaking 24, but my gosh, these guys continue to kick some ass.
Yeah. They all have continued to bring good people, whether that's good engineers, good crew members, good drivers, and then they're aligning themselves with top manufacturers. So really good for the sport. Really excited about what we're gonna do here at the Rolex and throughout the 24 season. The WeatherTech Championship is up for grabs. It's fantastic. You never know, even down to the final hours of the Petit Le Mans, who's going to win the championship. And we'll stop at I think 11 other weekends throughout the year at VIR, WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, Road America, you name it. We're gonna put on some great shows.
Hey, John, here's one for you, and we can't ignore it. Electric vehicles are here, and they're coming, and they're taking over, like it or not. Has there been discussion of a full-fledged electric vehicle class for IMSA?
Definitely studying. So obviously the hybrid electric motor that's in the GTP cars was a big step forward for us. The manufacturers are pushing. They want this to continue to be a showcase. We're studying every opportunity possible on electrification. But as I said at the the opening segment when we spoke, it's really driven by the manufacturers and what they see as the best storylines to tell to tie in what they're doing at the racetrack to their street lineup. So more to come on that, but I can assure you that that's on the radar, and we're going to continue to look at how we can do that and still drive entertainment. You know, all of us in NHRA, NASCAR, IMSA, the variety of sounds, you know, we're a sensory industry. So when electrification comes, we're going to have to make sure that that still is entertaining to the fans.
But you've already proven that, yes, it can be. So, yeah, just moving that forward even more.
Step forward, yes. Always more to do.
John Doonan, president of IMSA, again, here in the Freak Nation, buddy. Good luck to you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you. Thrilled to kick off the season. It's been an amazing ride, whether it was 19 years at Mazda or now 5 with IMSA. And it's thanks to you all for telling our stories to the passionate fans that listen to your show and that come out and watch us or watch us on NBC. So sincere thanks to you all for giving me the chance to tell some stories.
Hey, real quick, before we go, I don't know if Statman or Kenny, if you have heard his story about his first Indy 500. I love this story.
If we got the time, it's a special one.
We're picking our daughter up in about 3 hours. Can we keep it under?
So let's put it this way. My dad for sure would be jailed if this was today. But my grandfather had a dear friend named Ev Gardner who wrote for the Washington Post, covered sports and racing. And Ev got to a place in age he couldn't travel. So he gave my grandfather his media passes. And so Grandpa would move into Indianapolis May 1st and stay there for the whole month when it was a full month of May of cars on track. So if I behaved myself and got good grades on Friday of Memorial Day, Dad would pick me up from school and we'd go to Indy and we'd do the Hoosier 100. We do the night before the 500 and, of course, the race on Sunday. So I'm 7 years old and we're walking to the race on Sunday morning and my dad stops and buys a ticket from one of the people on the corner waving tickets in the air. And he bought a single ticket for his 7-year-old son. And it was in the grandstands, darn near right across from the pagoda in Victory Lane. And he had a cooler with food and drinks. I brought my earmuffs and my clipboard and all that. And he walked me to the seat and said, "Son, you stay here until I get back after the race." And so Dad and Grandpa used Grandpa's press passes. They're in pit lane. They're taking pictures. They're enjoying the race from the other side. And here I am, 7 years old, sitting in the grandstand at the Indy 500 for my first one, hoping that I don't have to go to the bathroom because I don't even know how to get there.
What?
And in the end, AJ Foyt wins his fourth. And after the race, most of the crowd's cleared out. I'm just still sitting there looking around, and here comes Dad up the aisle. Okay, son, it was a great race. Ready to go?
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, he'd be arrested right now.
Oh, yeah.
Indiana State Troopers would have cuffed him.
Did he get a photo of AJ in victory lane, though?
He did. I have those, and I have like one of those Instamatics. I still have the pictures I took, which are blurry as all can be. But I've got some great photos. In fact, it's so funny because I carry it with me every day.
No,
badass.
Here it is. There is a picture of Dad and I the day before the race. And look, I'm wearing a Michelin hat. I was already supporting IMSA.
Wow.
Look at those high socks. Who would have dressed their kid like that?
You look snappy.
Wow.
That is.
Is that how you got that sponsorship, by showing him that picture?
It's funny. I spoke at a Michelin employee gathering last fall, and I told that story, and I have that hat still, and in Daytona Beach as a reminder of going to that race. But of course, it ties in now with Michelin as a partner. So
It's awesome.
good stuff.
Wow.
Hey, John,
I appreciate you asking that. I love that story.
Freak Nation, January 28th, the Daytona 24-hour kicks off at Daytona International Speedway, or shall I say the 27th through the 28th at Daytona International Speedway. John Doonan, president of IMSA, joining us here in the Freak Nation. He's got to get the hell out of here so he can go get the fireworks set to scare the crap out of drivers.
9 p.m.
At 9 p.m. here outside of the backstretch. Doonan, it's fantastic to get you here in the Freak Nation. Happy New Year to you and much success this year, buddy.
Likewise, it's so great to see all three of you, and congrats to you, but your audience. You guys have a great group of folks following you. They're loyal, just like the IMSA fans are, and just know we're going to put on our best possible show starting off here in hard to believe about 10 days.
Again, the 27th and 28th of January, Freak Nation, the Rolex 24 Daytona International Speedway. More freaks coming up. Speed Freaks Pits and the Lucas Oil Studios.